Denmark plans to extend a face veil ban to schools and colleges. Experts report of a growth in anti-immigrant sentiment, but Danish politicians repeat face veils are un-Danish in a bid to promote social integration and lessen security threats. Does this face veil ban really serve the purpose they so readily claim?
Hello, I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching another episode of Explained with me. The ban on Islamic face coverings, especially known as the burqa and niqab, continues to spark significant debate across Europe. And in the latest development coming out of Denmark, we now learn that the government there is currently moving to expand an existing full face veil ban. Denmark, like several European countries, implemented a ban on wearing the full-face Islamic veils in public spaces back in the August of 2018. This means that the individuals who are found wearing such coverings can face potential fines. Now, the legislation itself was officially adopted even earlier by the Danish Parliament on May 31st of 2018. Now, before we discuss the latest updates on this law, one must understand that this law is not just specifically about the burqa or niqab. It broadly applies to any attire that conceals the face, including items like false beards and masks. Though the primary impact was felt on the Islamic veil, yes, niqab and burqa. Coming back to December 2025, where the Danish government is planning to extend the prohibition of full-face veils to schools and universities. The Minister for Immigration and Integration, Rasmus Stoklund, has been very persistent in his remarks, saying that Islamic face covering garments are simply not aligned with their Danish societal values. This was the fundamental rationale that the Danish government applied for bringing the 2018 face veil ban in public spaces, which, as Stoklund emphasizes, should also be the central basis for expanding the plan to educational institutions. The proposed bill for this extension is expected to be presented to Parliament by February next year. Major politicians of the country are of the opinion that it is quote unquote un-Danish for students to be in classrooms with their faces entirely covered. They have also cited practical reasons, most importantly preventing clear facial recognition by teachers. Some politicians who are in favor of this law expansion also correlate the ban as a measure to support the young girls and women from immigrant background against the practice of honor culture and other outdated norms. Muhammad Aslam, who is the chair of Mjolnerparken Residents Association of Denmark's capital city Copenhagen, has noted that anti-immigrant sentiment has spiraled over the last decade. Minority communities, including foreigners, refugees, and Muslims, have been frequently subjected to ridicule by political parties. And this is quite important to note, as this indeed has built the background against which the face veil banning laws have been introduced in Denmark. Moreover, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen in June this year had first expressed the intention to extend the face veil ban to educational institutions and even to prayer rooms. According to her, democracy needs to be given precedence when discussing the rights to practice religion and also addressing the gaps in legislation that allow for social control. This tells us that the new bill intends to expand the ban is fueled more by an ideological stance on cultural integration and preserving Danish values, rather than any one singular event triggering the sudden imposition of the bill. Now that we have understood the Danish perspective behind the face veil ban, let's now look at certain arguments that exist against the ban. Human rights campaigners and religious groups have strongly come out in opposition of this ban, calling it is not only discriminatory but also a violation of both freedom of religion and women's freedom of choice. The criticism centers on the idea that such face veil bans unfairly target specific religious communities, particularly Muslim women. They also say that this can lead to increased chances of marginalization rather than having positive effects on integration. Some groups have argued that the state imposing restrictions on dress code constitutes of a kind of social control that undermines individual liberties. Simply put, not letting a woman wear what she wants. Before we proceed, let's briefly look into the different kinds of veils so that it becomes easier to discuss the legal regulations. When we talk about hijab, it generally offers to covering up only with a headscarf, and the face remains visible. So this kind of veil remains largely legal in most countries. When it comes to the niqab, it is a face veil that just leaves the area around the eyes clear. And lastly, the burqa is an extreme Islamic veil that covers the entire face and body, permitting the wearer to only look through a mesh, which hints that the eyes are also covered. However, the burqa is very rare in Western societies, and in Denmark, experts say that it is basically non-existent. As per official reports, the existing face veil ban imposes a fine of 1,000 kroner, that is about $156, for first-time offenders. If an individual is caught for the fourth time, the fine is set to increase tenfold and can reach up to 10,000 kroner, which is approximately about $1,568. As we talk about Denmark and its scrutiny on face veils, what is the condition across Europe? Let's break it down. We begin with Austria, which adopted a law banning headscarves in schools for girls under the age of 14. This is a very recent development which took place last week on the 11th of December. Austria tried bringing a similar law back in 2017, but officials declined to enforce the law because they faced odd challenges, which they say happened due to vague wording put in the law. Moving to Belgium now. It has an active full ban on face coverings, which has also been upheld by the European Court of Human Rights. Bulgaria has a partial ban on face coverings, whereas the Netherlands has put curbs on the wearing of face veils in public. If we take Germany, it has partial bans in some regions and cities, while the state of Bavaria in southeast Germany enforces curbs on face veils. The face veil bans has also elicited strong reactions from within the Danish society. Back in 2018, hundreds of Danes rallied in cities of Copenhagen and Aarhus to protest the new law the day it came into effect. It attracted protesters from different parts of society, including both veiled and non-veiled Muslim women, as well as non-Muslim women who covered their faces in solidarity. Police at that time did not penalize veiled protesters, as certain use of face veils, especially when carrying out peaceful protests, do not make individuals liable to the law. In 2022, a proposal to ban hijabs in Danish elementary schools was up for discussions. This sparked a severe backlash, prompting several thousand protesters to rally in the streets of Copenhagen. An event known as Hands Off Our Hijabs was organized to assert that Muslim women were in fact an integral part of Danish society. Certain observatory reports also reveal that there has been a direct connection between such legislation and the increase in instances of verbal and physical attacks against veiled Muslim women. Meanwhile, supporters of the face covering ban, including members of the Danish People's Party, have argued that such bans would strengthen safety for all. They have also claimed that terrorists and other criminals often tend to blur their identity with all kinds of face coverings while conducting acts of terror or other crimes. For now, all debates on Denmark's niqab and burqa ban has been put on a pause, as it awaits the comprehensive review by the Danish Parliament, which is due next year in February. The outcome will have a considerable effect on how the country balances its cultural values, secular promise of religious freedom and social integration in a population where 12.6% of whom are immigrants. This is all the time we have for. Thank you for watching. Keep watching NewsX World for more news and updates.